Hello, my fellow readers. This is iDarkSymphony777 with another fanfiction reading. As always, link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell for notifications, leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts of the story. By the way, this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of everyone in the world, so please respect that. So, the story I'm doing a reading of today is an Untold Rivalry by Grey Alloy. It is a codenamed Kids Next Door, one of probably my favorite cartoon of all time. I love KND. I still have fond memories of it. And let's just get into it. Okay, Rachel, deep breaths. You can do this. It's not like you haven't done this before. Contrary to what she told herself, she was nervous. Normally, she would be used to this. She would get a message from the Supreme Leader about an important mission. She would go to the moon base, talk to the leader about said mission, and then go and do that mission. Simple as that. But she wasn't feeling as confident as she usually is. She didn't know what it was. Maybe it was the slight stress she was feeling today, or the look on the leader's face when he sent her a message. She had this uneasy feeling that whatever this mission was, it would be much more of a hassle, and that maybe this will be one of the few missions that she'll fail. But this is all just an over-exaggeration on her part, right? Despite these worries, she still pressed forward, making her way to the central station's entrance. The door slid open, revealing a stoic-faced preteen with a strand of blonde hair covering one of his eyes, waiting for her. She calmly entered the room and halted herself when she stood close enough to the Supreme Leader. Number 274, sir, she said, saluting her leader. At ease, number 362, he responded. Now, the relationship between 274, a.k.a. Chad Dixon, and the lower-ranked operatives is less like a commander and their soldiers, and more like a celebrity and their fans. Many of the operatives had very high respect for the boy, some even considering him one of the best Supreme Leaders the KND had ever had. Chad would even admit that he spent more time giving autographs than he does writing for paperwork. But his relationship with Rachel Mackenzie was much more different, and was instead less like a commander and their soldier, and more like two partners in crime. They both had mutual respect for one another, and were practically unstoppable when they were together. Their bond was so close, some had mistaken them for being a romantic couple, which they would immediately turn down. Now, you already know why you're here, right? Chad said, approaching the computer. To go undercover and find out what the delightful children's next plan is. Good. He gave a little smirk that boosted the confidence of any operative, as the screen showed pictures of the aforementioned children. Now, they've been planning this for weeks, which definitely means it's one of their bigger plans. I already told you that they're going to be there, making it harder for you to find out what they're up to. She kept a good eye on him as he slowly paced left and right, paying good attention to what he was saying, something she learned since day one of being a KND operative. However, there's been an unfortunately update to the situation. He stopped pacing and turned his complete attention to the blonde-haired girl. You know about father, right? Just as he said that, a photo appeared showing a shadowed man with yellow eyes that glared to Rachel's soul. She let a slight gasp at the mirror sight of him. Every operative knew who father was, the most feared and dangerous adult of the 7th age of the KND. Not only did he have the ability to create fire with his bare hands, as well as flight and other abilities, but he also had the ice cream men, the teen ninjas, and 5 perfect little kids at his disposal. The KND, especially Sector V, has had several encounters with the man, and each time it was always a close call. There have even been theories that he was responsible for the disappearance of Sector Z. But I thought he was supposed to be in a meeting with the other evil adults. That's what we thought too, Chad said. But it seems something happened that led to him not going. Whether it be a delay or because he decided not to go. But what matters is that father will also be in the mansion with his children, which makes infiltration much more of a challenge. That's why I called you over. He walked over to her until they were a few feet apart. I need to make sure you still have what it takes to infiltrate the mansion and get the delightful children's plans. Great. Now she had a dilemma. She wanted to help in any way she could, but at the same time, she didn't know what father was like in person. From what Nigel had told her from his first encounter with him, it wasn't very pretty. What if trips on something while trying to run away, or make a noise, alerting his attention? One wrong move, and he could do who knows what to her. Rachel? The voice brought her out of her deep thoughts. She turned to see Chad looking at her with concern as he placed his hand on her shoulder. I know who you are, Rachel. You're a best spy. This isn't like you. You've been on so many missions before, and you succeeded nearly each and every one. Sure, you screwed up a couple missions, and sure, you almost failed others, but it didn't stop you from continuously doing them. I mean, remember the signal tower? Indeed, she did. She remembered when she single-handedly stopped Mr. Boss, Fanny's father, from using a signal tower that would brainwash any kids that was watching TV. He nearly caught her, but she was able to deactivate it before he could cause any harm. That was also the moment her presence became more known by the evil adults, giving her the title of Ghost Kid by them. She took a deep breath and looked back at her leader. You're right. She moved his arm off her shoulders. I shouldn't get so worked up over this. I don't care if I get injured. Heck, I don't care if I get killed. As long as I can get the kids next door the upper hand in defeating adult tyranny, do it. That's the number 362 I know. Saying a smile Chad gave her earlier came back. There's a scamper waiting for you. Head on down to it and I'll take you to the mansion. She nodded and followed. Oh, and before you go, she stopped as the door opened and she turned to look at Chad. I just want to say, good luck, soldier. She smiled and gave her leader a salute as she rushed the scamper. If there's one thing Chad was always good at, it was lifting the spirits of others. Whether someone was down on his luck, he would be there to pick him back up, and give them the confidence he needed. That was why so many operatives looked up to him. He saw the potentials others had and helped them achieve it. It was also why some consider him the best there ever was. Then an alarm went off. Chad turned back to the monitor and saw a flash text that said incoming transmission. He ran to the monitor and the screen changed to show Herbie, aka number 65.3. What seems to be the holdup? Chad asked. We lost contact with numbers 58 and 59. The prison transport Della seems to have landed back on Earth. We suspect that number 206 is responsible for this. I'll send the location of where it crashed. The monitor changed again, and as promised, it showed the exact location the ship crashed. With quick thinking, Chad said to Herbie, call Sector V and tell him to investigate. Look at number 86. Wait, is this basically, what was that episode? Is this the episode that actually introduced 360? No, yeah. This has to be based off the episode that introduced 362. So if those don't know, 362 I think was introduced in season 2, like early season 2, I believe. And it was an episode that also introduced number 86. Basically, number 86 shows up, starts being incredibly sexist. And all of them have to go on a mission to go find the fugitive number 206 that's hidden in the delightful children from Down Lane's mansion. However, they all inadvertently mistake number 362 for number 206. And that kind of and the episode ends with like Fanny getting chewed out by Rachel. It's not one of the best episodes. I mean, it's really only notable in the fact that it introduces 86. It introduces Fanny and Rachel. Other than that, I think it's one of the weaker episodes of Kids Next Door. That's just my opinion. But let's get back to this. Okay. Aye, sir. Ending transmission. Great, he said as the monitor went to pitch black. The fugitive. Right! He heard a scratchy voice scream. He turned to where it was and saw Fanny, or number 86, marching her way in. What's happening now? Number 206 escaped cavity. Number 206! She shouted. While she hated all boys, she especially hated number 206. His blatant sexism. Fanny, your first appearance was you being sexist. You're not one to talk. Okay. His blatant sexism, extreme arrogance, and the sector he was from told her that he nearly abandoned during one of their missions. He was basically that word that starts with the D that adults and teens like to say. She sometimes wondered why they even let him join the KND. I need you to go to the crash site and apprehend him. Oh, don't worry. She cracked her knuckles. I'll make sure of it. With fire in her eyes, she stormed out of the room and headed straight to the crash site. All this commotion regarding number 206 reminded him of something. Something had been eating away at him, day by day. Something that was a painful reminder that nothing lasts forever. Something that he kept secret from everyone, including Rachel. He's 12 years old, and his birthday is not that far from now. And to be honest, he didn't like the idea of losing his memories after turning 13. He let out a deep sigh. Another fugitive. Guard up, number 362. The operative said as the scamper landed at a safe distance from the mansion. Thanks. The door opened, and Rachel put on her mask and helmet. Before getting off, as soon as she got off, the ship flew away, and she waved goodbye. She looked over to see the large mansion that stood before her. Despite its appearance, it had a sinister aura to it, especially if you knew 5 evil children and their fire-powered father lived there, plotting their next scheme to make their lives of kids miserable. But standing around isn't going to stop them any faster. So she took a deep breath, then let out, and made her way to the mansion. First, she went straight to the entrance, checking to make sure there was nothing preventing her from just waltzing in. When she reached it, she saw at the gate a pair of security cameras, one on each end. She could tell that the moment it sees her, she would be dead meat. So the entrance was a no-go. She decided to change course to the right in the mansion. There had to be a back entrance. She kept running and running and running. She stopped, hands on her knees, and breathing heavily. How long is this wall? She knew there was no way to get to the back entrance without wasting energy. There's got to be another way. That's when she noticed something in the corner of her eye. She turned to the hedge and saw a small hole at the bottom of it, one that a kid her age could easily fit in on it. Bingo! She crawled into the hole, making sure not to get any cuts or splinters from the branch that were sticking out. She poked her head out and looked around. Seeing that no one was around, she got out of the hole. Now standing in the middle of a pathway, it seems this mission is going to be a lot easier than she thought. Until she heard the sound of mechanical stopping. She looked to where it came from and saw a large, bulky figure that looked like a suit of armor. She could tell right off the bat what it was. One of Father's many Nitamatrons. Nitamatrons. Night brace. It's a night brace, and he's ready. To take you out of the mansion and scrub your teeth with blood. It seems he sent one of them to patrol around the place. Fortunately, she knew that Nitamatrons are nearsighted. Another one of KND's spies overheard a conversation Father had with one of the technicians, saying that they needed to fix the fission. The issue with the robots gave Rachel enough time to jump to the nearest bush and hide. She took a peek and saw the Nitomatron had stopped. It looked around, trying to find her. After scanning the environment, it went over to check out a bush that was opposite to where she was. As the robot looked inside said bush, she jumped right on top of it and grabbed for dear life. It sprung up and started stomping around, trying to reach its back and grab her. As she avoided his large hands from grabbing her, she took out a piece of 2x4 tech and chewed up gum at the bottom of it. She stuck it on the robot's back and started pushing some of the device buttons. A 12-second timer was shown on it. Nanomatron finally grabbed her and threw her onto the ground. She slowly backed away as it stomped closer. But as it clasped his hands together and was ready to slam them onto her, a large bolt of electricity shocked the robot and caused it to spaz out uncontrollably. When it stopped, the robot froze in place, and after a few seconds, it slowly fell down on his chest. The Nanomaton was defeated. Rachel got up and looked at his back, and saw the device was now completely fried, indicating what caused the shock. She was going to say some corny one-liner, but that was not the time. She went to one of the windows and grabbed another device. This time, it looked like a plunger. She stuck it onto the window and out of the device. Out came a laser cutter that made a perfect circle around itself. She grabbed the device, which in turn helped her grab the part of the window that was cutted, and carefully placed it on the ground. With a leap and a soft landing, she finally made it into the lifeless mansion. Now to find the plans. She grabbed a GPS-like device and displayed the marker of where they were. She went upstairs, following the marker. She made sure to keep a slow pace and check her corners. One thing that was always important when being a spy is being very cautious and paying attention to everything you see and hear. Like, for example, the sound of a group of people walking and whistling in unison. She quickly hid against the wall and looked to her right, hearing them get closer. The delightful children eventually made it in her line of sight. Each of them holding folded up bathrobes. The boys had blue ones, while the girls had white and pink ones. She also noticed that the blonde boy of the group was holding a jar of toenails and clippers. Okay, ill. It was best she didn't know why they had that. They continued to whistle as they entered the bathroom. She sprinted away the moment the door shut. It didn't take long for her to reach the bedroom. The most peculiar thing it had was a large bed with 5 pillows, but nothing else was out of the ordinary. She heard. I mean, they sleep together. I mean, they should. I mean, they shower together, which is disgusting. They go to the bathroom together, which is disgusting. So why not? They eat together. Why not just sleep together? It's sad that the sleeping together is like the least disgusting thing of the things I listed. Okay, okay. She heard the sound of beeping coming from her device, which would help her find the plans easier. She took it out again and scanned the room. She moved it to the right, which was where the closet was, and the beeping went slower. She turned to the left, which was where the closet, which is where the dresser. Oh my god! Even the author is like kind of goofing up, and it started beeping in rapid succession. She put it back in her pocket and searched the dresser. When she reached the fourth dresser, there it was, the delightful children's plans, which she grabbed without hesitation. This was easier than I thought, she said to herself. She tossed it in the air, then put it in her pocket. Now she can get out of this place and give these to... She froze, feeling goosebumps as she heard someone laughing in the room next to the delightful children's. She turned to the door where she heard it again. It sounded dark, ominous, and filled with hate. She walked slowly closer to it, and slowly opened the door enough where she could see what was happening. Her eyes widened with shock at what she saw. Finally, he said to himself, awing at the blueprint. After all these years, I finally found something that will help me get rid of these brats once and for all. Father had commissioned some of the best mad scientists to construct the perfect weapon, one that would completely counter everything they had. One that was already powerful on their own, but would practically be unstoppable when there's an army of it. One that could single-handedly bring the end to the kids next door. Oh, I can't wait to see the look on all their faces, he chuckled. Teens will worship you like a god, and remind all those other evil adults who the real head honcho of adult tyranny. While he was definitely respected by his peers, he felt as though he didn't get enough respect, which was one of the reasons why he wanted this invention made, to further boost his ego, and to make more people know him as the KND's greatest enemy. When I send those big bads to the moon base, he chuckled a little as he took out his pipe out of his mouth. It's going to be a bloodbath. He then erupted into sinister laughter as his body ignited into flames, making everything around him shake. He continued laughing like a maniac until he felt his stomach growl, rather loudly. Oh man! He placed his hands on his stomach. I didn't know I needed to use the bathroom that badly. He walked toward the bathroom, but stopped when he placed his hand on the doorknob. He turned back to that glorious blueprint he was bragging about. He knew how special the plan was. He can't just leave it lying around for all to see, especially since he had that sneaking suspicion someone was watching him. He grabbed the blueprints and hid in a secret spot, and made his way back to the bathroom. Zero. It was bad. Really bad. The way he talked so highly about it made it very clear that whatever Father was planning was more dangerous than anything the delightful children could come up with. In fact, it was so secretive that not even the KND were able to uncover it. She had to do something about this. She slowly opened the door, taking quiet steps as she pressed forward. The room was fairly typical. A king-size bed with a wooden canopy, a dresser, a closet, a painting. It's a pretty standard room for a man with high power, except for several pictures of each Sector V member that were crossed out. Sight of the pictures hanging made Rachel feel uneasy. She knew he hated Sector V for being one of the few operatives to defeat him in person, but he didn't know he hated them to the point of obsession. I guess that's what she should expect from Father. He never lets go. She stopped thinking about those pictures, reminding herself to focus and find those blueprints. She checked the dresser first. Maybe he hid them in the same place they did. Like Father or like 5 psychotic kids. Unfortunately, there was nothing in there. She double-checked and even threw out all the clothes. Why a guy who spends most of his time cloaked in darkness needs clothes is beyond her. Wasn't in there, then maybe under the bed? No. Behind the mirror? No. Under the carpet? No. The bathroom? Obviously not. When she searched in his closet, she didn't find the blueprints. She didn't find something just as interesting. A bright pink playground. She would comment on how weird that is, but that ain't as weird as the jar of toenails she saw earlier. All the places she had thought had it turned out to be dead ends. She looked back at the painting. It was a father and his children. The almost looked like they were looking right at her, mocking her for not being able to find it. That was when she noticed something blue sticking out from behind the frame. Her eyes widened. She quickly grabbed the painting, flipped it around, and saw the blueprints rolled up to fit behind the canvas. She grabbed it, dropping the painting. The more the girl looked at it, the more she felt the need to see what's inside of it. She knows she should not look at the blueprints and just go, curiosity killed the cat and all, but she had to see what got him so excited. She opened the blueprints and, ooh, man. Father opened the door, drying his head. We need to lay out the rib of munchies. He threw the towel back in the bathroom and brushed his hands. Now time to get back to, what? She jumped, gazing at the man and stood enraged at her. She made a dash to the door, but was stopped by a wall of fire. Who do you think you are? And where do you think going? He exclaimed. Normally, Rachel would keep her face hidden so no one could figure out who she was, as spies should. The only time someone found out who she was, it was done by force. But this was different. If anyone should know about her identity, it would be KND's most dangerous villain. That's why if she somehow beats him, he'll remember her. She took off the mask and stood bravely. I am number 362 of the kids next door. Number 362. He looked puzzled. He clearly never saw this girl. Though he probably did. But just forgot. When you tormented so many kids, you start to forget some of them. But one quick look at her short blonde hair made it click. Wait a minute. You're that girl Mr. Boss was talking about. Yep. That's me. She had a feeling he was going to tell at least one of the adult villains about her. Tattletale. Now listen here, Goldilocks. I don't care if you're some kind of high-ranking member of the credit organization, but I demand that you give me those blueprints! Rachel felt the ground shake each time he raised his voice. You want this back? She shoved it in her back pocket, put her mask back on, and went into a battle stance. Come and get it, hothead. Father made the first move by launching a fireball on her. She looked away from it, watching it burst on the ground. As she thought about her next move, Father lunged at the girl, running his fist. She just about avoided it, feeling the heat exuding from his flaming arm. He attacked her again, throwing two fireballs that moved like boomerangs. She ducked under one, but the other got to her, making her stumble back. Father stumped towards the girl, ready to beat her to a pulp. She dodged every punch and kick and he threw at them, waiting for an opportunity to hit him. He swung another fist, but missed again, hitting the ground instead of his initial target. Rachel retaliated by jabbing him in the face a couple times and giving him a swift kick, knocking him back. His anger grew more as she charged at him. She tried to punch him again, but he avoided him each time. He grabbed her by the leg and threw her onto the floor. He nearly punched her, being stopped by Rachel quickly getting up and catching it. He tried with his other fist and the same thing. Now it was a tug-of-war, with Father trying to push Rachel and vice versa, with obviously struggling more than him. He let out a hum. His eyes squinted in a joyous way. His hands engulfed in flames, trying to burn Rachel's own hands. She let out a pain scream, having no choice but to let go of his hands. She looked at them to make sure they didn't have any burn marks, and thankfully they were only slightly red. Father laughed at her pain, kicking her back. She landed against the dresser. Didn't your mother ever tell you not to touch things that are really hot? She watched as he marched towards him, fireball in hand. She needed some way to get a leg up in battle. That's when she heard the sound of something falling next to her. She looked and saw a bat laying on the floor. What's with this bat? What's with this bat? Father stopped, confused by her question, but decided to answer anyway. Well, I did have my butler play baseball with my children. Gotta keep him entertained when I'm trying to. It's being so faithful to the kids next door. I love this story. Rachel swung the bat against his head so hard, she's surprised it didn't break. He was sent crashing against the wall. She ran to him as he got back up. Father tried uppercutting her and hitting her with a fiery slam. His fist broke through the floorboard, causing him to get stuck. Rachel took the opportunity to swing at his vulnerable side. He responded by swiping at her, knocking her away. He unstuck his fist as she got back up. Not bad, number 362. His left hand created a fireball. I like to see you try harder. The fireball grew in 3 sizes of size. Rachel's heart started racing, but she still stood her ground. If giving up means letting adults win, she won't, no matter what. With a long stretch of his arm, he hurled it at the girl. She shut her eyes to shield herself from the flaming brightness, squeezing the bat tighter than before. She swung the bat with her might, breaking it in the process, and the flame went flying back to its maker. Uh-oh. The fireball exploded, and Father crashed into his bed, destroying it. Her eyes opened, surprised at the damage caused. Looking at the bat, it was split in half, with the top half just about dangling from the bottom. She dropped it, seeing as there was no more use for it. Looking back at the door, the wall of fire was finally gone. She thought it was finally over, and she could get out. How wrong she was. Father came bursting from the debris, more upset than ever. In an act of desperation, he threw one last fireball at her. She turned, gasping at the flaming object being sent her way. She scanned her surroundings, finding nothing to protect her, except one thing. Without thinking, she grabbed it. He laughed, thinking he had won, but his face went from a sinister joy to fear when she spoke clear. A loud gasp came from his non-existent mouth. Rachel slowly opened her eyes. I was surprised to see that the blueprints were able to protect her, but it came at a cost. The blueprints were now destroyed. The only remains left being two small pieces with burnt marks around the edges, which he promptly dropped. No. He got out of the debris and fell on his knees, a defeated look on his face. No. His arms fell to the floor. His face dropped down. For a moment, the room was silent, with the only sound being the slight weeping from Father. But the moment would soon come and go. You! Rachel jumped at the sight that would traumatize any child. For a moment, she thought she was staring at the devil himself, with the burning red flames in the eyes, the fire that completely surrounded him, and the bellowing yell that he exclaimed, I waited months for that stinking thing. Spent millions of dollars on it. It was the thing I needed to rid this world of you stupid worldwide club. His anger builded more and more with each word, his taunts being so heavy that they caused earthquakes. All she could do was slowly back away until she pressed against the door, sweating bullets not just from her heat, but from fear. You are dead! He had finally erupted like a volcano. The fire dancing around his body now covered nearly the entire room. A telltale sign for Rachel to do one thing. Run. She kicked the door open, running as fast as possible as she could, ignoring what was happening behind, because she knew the impending danger that was chasing after her. As she ran, however, she saw someone who was wearing the exact same stuff she was wearing, going the opposite way she was heading. She didn't know who that person was, but that didn't matter to her. All that mattered was getting out of the delightful mansion from down the lane. He didn't know who that person was, but that didn't matter to him. All that mattered was getting to Father and warning him about KND's next plan. Suddenly, he felt someone grab him by the collar and slam him against the wall. All right, you little brat! He looked to see it was none other than Father himself. Broke into my mansion, wrecked my room, beat me in the face with a bat, and ruined my plans. Flames grew from his hands. Now you are going to pay. His hands slowly inched towards his face, ready to burn his face to a crisp. The boy started to panic, trying to get his hands off him. Wait! He quickly took his mask off. I'm with you guys! What the? Father stopped. This was a blonde-haired girl, but a brown-haired boy with freckles. Looked like he just hit 13. Who the heck are you? He said, dropping him. The boy got up and dusted himself off. My name is 206, or at least it was, till I turned 13. Now I'm just John Deeds. I don't know why, but that name, John Deeds. I don't know why, but that made me laugh. I swear edit everything. It's just John Deeds. I don't know why. That made me laugh. Okay. Wait, let me go back. Let me go. Okay. I gotta say, it's really stupid how they act like being 13 means you're no longer a kid. Parents still treat teenagers like they're kids. I mean, be 11 billion years old. My dad will still call me a kid. I think we're going over the other problems that KND has. Like, where is she? Father interrupted. She? Wait a minute. Oh no. He was too late. She got to the plans before he could warn him. That's who that person was. All he could do now is answer his question. She went over there! He pointed to where she went, but that's all I know. Father wasted no time and went searching for her. Okay, Rachel, you got the delightful children's plans and destroyed Father's. All you need to do is get out and give them to BAM! The door sprung open, sending her flying. A voice said, I sure hope we didn't miss any of the action, but that was it. Her vision faded, and everything went silent. Looks like her worries turned out to be right for once. Don't Don't worry, number 5, Fanny said. Put number 206 inside the surf flyer. I'll be sure to credit you and number 3 in my report. You know what? Keep your stupid credit, Abby retorted. So yourself. More credit for me! More credit for me! With that, the ship headed to its destination, with her being unaware of a big mistake she made. Man, Kooky said, arms crossed. Who would have been her undies? Wally looked at her with surprise, not just because she said something similar not too long ago, but also because he never expected a girl like Kooky to say something like that. She looked at him confused. What? Am I wrong? Wally shook his head. Nah, you ain't wrong. I mean, seriously, we kept that plant completely safe, just as she said. What does she do? She knocks it off my hands and acts like she didn't tell us to protect it. I swear, I just want to scream in her face and kick her as Wally kept on ranting. Nigel stood there silently, with his gut feeling in his stomach. There was something off about 206. One thing being that his voice sounded more feminine than usual. He knew they had a surprisingly deep voice compared to the other operatives. Something was wrong. He knew it. It didn't take long for one of his friends to take notice. Hey, number 1. You okay? You okay? Abby asked. We got the guy. There's nothing to worry about. I know, number 5. Nigel responded. It's just that I had this feeling that maybe we got the wrong guy. That person wasn't number 206, but someone else. Well, it doesn't matter. It's 86's problem now. Guys. Everyone turned to see Hoagie looking at something nervously. Yes, number 2? Nigel asked. Hoagie slowly raised his shaking hand and pointed out where he was looking. I don't think not getting the right guy is the least of her worries. Everyone turned and got the same look of horror Hoagie has. Father was menacingly standing there, huffing and puffing like a wolf, ready to blow a house down and murder in his yellow eyes. Number 1, Abby turned to her leader. What do we do? Nigel took a deep breath and stood straight, glaring at the shadow man. Kids next door! Retreat! The other Sector V members followed orders and ran away, barely avoiding the large fireball Father sent. Father stood there, one hand on the doorframe, watching them run back to their treehouse. He looked up and faintly saw the surf flower flying into orbit. Number 362! This isn't the end. You hear me? I'll get my revenge. Just you wait. He was out of breath after shouting at someone who definitely didn't hear him. All he could do now was stand there and look around. Unbeknownst to him, a certain fugitive was behind him, also looking around him. So, he rubbed the back of his neck and took a couple glances. Can I join the Team Ninjas? Father let a deep sigh, as if he didn't have enough things to worry about. John wasn't the first fugitive to barge into his mansion uninvited and asked to be a member of Team Ninjas. I want to see that! Just random people barging the Father's house like, can I be a Team Ninja? Who the hell are you? What? What? I want to see that. I want to read that. And he certainly wasn't going to be the last. Normally, he gets mad at them and tells them they have to prove it first. So much happened today, it didn't matter anymore. Yes, your training starts tomorrow. The boy's face lit up at Father's disappointed response. Yes, he explained with a fist pump. Father turned and saw he was dancing around, banging his head while singing some made-up song about joining the Team Ninjas and how much the kid next door sucks. He remembers Chester giving him a hypothesis that every decade, teams get dumber and dumber due to the stuff they consume. And of course, the KND. It seems he found evidence for that theory. Can you please leave my house before I reconsider? The fugitive jumped and ran out the house. Even if you're a villain, you do not test Father's patience. He went back into the mansion, thinking about how he was going to have to repair his room and come up with a new plan that sadly won't be as good as his initial plan because he forgot about it. That's when he noticed something on the floor. He walked up to see that it was the delightful children's plans. He picked them up. How did that get there? Father? He heard his children cry for him. He went up to see what was going on and saw, to his surprise and confusion, his children in bathrobes covered in toenails, trying to pick up others that were on the floor. Father, Kate knocked our toenail collection out of her hands and made a big mess. Can you please help us pick it all up? You have a toenail collection? Okay, here we go. The chewing out time. Rachel's vision slowly came back to her as she felt something warm on her back. Her eyes opened as she looked around. Something about this place felt familiar. She kept looking around until they focused on the operative eyeing her. Oh no. Oh no. She was back at the moon base. She tried to move, but couldn't. Almost as if she was tied up, and someone had a hold of her. Quick, scrubbing your traitor! She looked up and saw her best friend, Fanny, carrying her somewhere. Apparently, she was a traitor. She didn't do anything. She just did what she was told. It was obvious there was some big misunderstanding going on that will hopefully be resolved after she gives Chad the... Wait a minute. Where are the plans? She checked each of her pockets to the best of her ability, and each of them had nothing. She lost the plans. Brother of Zero, she lost the plans. She went from being completely worried to being completely enraged that all of her hard work was for naught. Her anger only increased when Fanny threw her in the center of the room. Voila! One fugitive all wrapped up to go. She felt the presence of the three operatives trying to unwrap her. When they get me out of this, I'm going to chew her out. And I want to go on record that all the credit for this capture goes directly to me. When they finished unwrapping her, she took off her mask, revealing herself, leaving the operatives in the state of stock. She turned to see Fanny talking to Chad. Oh, so it was you who tied me up. It was your fault I lost the plans. So much for being my best friend. It's like number 362 is going to give me a big promotion. She kept staring daggers at the redhead as Chad took notice of her. Oh, I'm going to give you something, all right? It's not a promotion. Number 86? What? He pointed at Rachel. Fanny looked to where he was pointing, and it was all that was gloating she was doing never happened, and she became a scared little girl. Yeah, Fanny became a Fanny. One big old Fanny. A bubble Fanny. Number 362. She stomped towards her. Bam, you idiot! I was this close to getting the delightful children's plans. Then you attacked me from out of nowhere. Whose side are you on anyway? I'm ashamed to call you a girl. Never thought a girl would be so stupid. You are, by far, the most idiotic person I ever had to work with. All Fanny could do was stand there and rattle like a skeleton. She never heard anyone talk down to her like that. It was from the one person she looked up to. I thought, get out! The redhead screamed and did what she was told. Rachel turned to see Chad and the other operative, just as shocked as Fanny was. There are three people you never take off. Father was number 1, Kookie was number 2, and number 3 was Rachel Mackenzie. Let's get out of here. 3 operatives ran out of the room, leaving only her and Chad in the room. So, he put his hands on his hips and rocked back and forth. I take that things didn't go as planned. She turned to him, intensifying her glare as him. As much as they respected one another, Chad knew not to get on her bad side. Something he learned as early as when he was a cadet. The awkward silence ended when he clapped his hands. All right. He cleared his throat. I'll just be heading to my office. He scooted away a little bit, then started walking out the room. But then he poked back to say one more thing. If you need anything, you know where I am. He left the room and the door shut. Did you hear about what happened? No. Apparently number 86 mistook number 362 for a fugitive. Really? Yeah. I heard that number 362 gave her a full-on rant. It was nuts. 2 operatives were having a discussion about current events as they wandered around the moon base. It didn't take long for people to find out what had happened. Kids have a knack for telling others about things that happened, be it good or bad. Wow. I kind of feel bad for number 86. Well, if you ask me, I say she deserved it. Someone needed to teach that girl acting all hidey mighty just because she's a decommissioning officer. And I'm glad the one to do it is number 362. My God, there she is. 2 operatives saw number 362, occupying a stray bench, still upset at what happened. She looked at the 2 when they nervously passed by. She let out a sigh, looking up at the ceiling. She had failed before, but this failure felt extremely humiliating. She fought a child-hating pyromancer and won. Yet all it took to take her down was someone kicking a door open. The fact that she was so close to completing it didn't make it any better. She could have gone to Chad and vented out her frustrations to him, like he suggested. But she didn't feel like talking to him. In fact, she didn't feel like talking to anybody. She couldn't really think of anyone who could make her feel better. Well, apart from, hey, Rachel. She heard the soft-spoken British voice speak to her. Her head moved away from the ceiling, and she saw Nigel Uno. His head slightly tilted, with concern on his face. Mind if I sit down next to you? Oh. She was a little startled at her request. Sure. But she complied. She scooted to the side, and he sat down next to her, hands on his lap. So, what's the matter? Well, She let it aside before explaining. I messed up another mission. So going so well. I got into the mansion relatively easy. I kept the plans like I was told. I had a fight with Father, freaking Father, and I was able to beat him. You know what happened? Fanny came barging out of nowhere, thought I was number 206, and tied me up. Doing so well until that happened. She placed her head on one of her hands after finishing her head. Rant. Nigel looked at her nervously. It was very obvious that what she said wasn't really what happened. The other Sector V members told him not to tell her. In fear, he invoked her wrath. But he didn't care about that. He needed to come clean to his best friend. Rachel, he turned his full attention to her. There is something I need to tell you. What is it, Nigel? The look she gave him almost made him not want to do it. With how innocent she looked. Well, you see, it wasn't Fanny that knocked you out, really. Then who was it? It was me. I'm terribly sorry for ruining your mission. It's just that Fanny always treats us so unfairly and bosses around for no reason. She would have yelled at him, the same way she yelled at her friend, but she didn't have the energy to even try. Even if she did, he was at least able to admit his mistake and apologize. She also felt a small wave of guilt after yelling at Fanny, when it wasn't even her fault. Jeez, I need to apologize to her. Oh, don't worry, she seems to be over it. It's way too harsh on her. Well, if it makes it feel any better, I had fights with Hoagie before, and usually we go back to being friends like nothing ever happened. Plus, you probably didn't mean the things you said. Guess you're right. She put her hand back on her head. The same concerned look Nigel had before came back. Look, Rachel, I know what it's like to fail a mission. I mean, me and the others fight tooth and nail to get the delightful children's cake, and most of the time, it always ends with the cake getting destroyed in some way. No one gets to have a slice of it. She looked back at him. But you want to know what I did? I never gave up. I look at the good. Like how you're able to uncover secret plans that even the kids next door knew about. I was able to stop him before you can enact it. If you let one single failure eat away at you, you'll just feel worse about yourself. I don't want that to happen to you, Rachel. You're one of the best operatives out there. I know if you keep working hard, you'll be even better. The warm smile Nigel gave was enough to make her face light back up. I smiled back. He always knew what to say to make her feel better. From the time they were cadets and she bruised his knee, to the time she lost her treehouse to a very dangerous adult. Nigel would always be there to comfort and give her the motivation she needs. Thanks, Nigel. The longer she looked at the boy, the more her face began to blush. Truth be told, she had a crush on Nigel. Maybe not little, but she was good at hiding it. Sometimes. There was always something about him that made her heart beat faster. For starters, there was the aforementioned soft voice he always had, which coupled with the British accent made him sound all the more lovely. There was also the fact that when he wasn't taking his job seriously, he's kind of a dork. And while he was cut when he wore glasses, his sunglasses make him look cooler and cuter. Every time they would hang out and talk with each other, it was part of her that wanted to tell him how she felt. There was just one problem. So, how's your girlfriend? Lizzie? She's doing fine. She can be a little clingy, but she's nice. That's great to hear. Someone had already beaten her to the punch. Now, she had no qualms with Lizzie, especially since she didn't even know who she is, and she did not want to get in the way of the relationship. Good. Lizzie's kind of crazy. As long as she was happy with his date, then she's happy. But she had this feeling deep down that she should be the one with her. At the very least, she wouldn't bother him while he was busy doing other things. Again, she didn't want to start some dumb love triangle fight for his affection, but it was always something that she thought about when she was with him. Thanks again for the little talk. You're welcome. He got up from the bench. Well, I better head back home. See you, Rachel. Bye, Nigel. She waved as he walked away. Despite the bitter feeling about her one-sided relationship with him, her talk with Nigel ended up making her feel a lot better about herself, and even enlightened her a little. She got off the bench and gazed at the stars. With a smile on her face, she went away, more confident than ever. So her name is Rachel Mackenzie. He read the file, all the information they could find on her, or pictures of her in action. Indeed, a man in a trench coat was there with him. Anything about her family? Nothing much, Father. She doesn't have any family members that are evil. Or at least, not any that are alive. Out goes the idea of getting another recruit. All right, get your job. Get out. The man nodded and walked away. Father sat there, eyeing the document, while taking a huff of his pipe. He looked to his left at a little picture. The picture was that of his brother, Monte Uno, as well as his wife and his son. Monty gave it to him as a gift to remember them while he was at work, but he viewed it as a way to remind himself of the operative he was related to. He picked it up. You know, I always hate you more, nephew. You and your annoying little pals. He placed it back and looked at the document. But it wouldn't start hating but it wouldn't start hating on someone else when you're around to bug me. He laughed that same evil laugh he always did. Thus, a new rivalry was born. Not as personal grand as his rivalry with Nigel, but just as pivotal in the ongoing war between kids and adults. So that is an untold rivalry. I thought it was good. It's really rough with the writing, with especially with like there's a lot of grammar errors. If you actually notice, I was actually automatically saying the sentences and fixing the grammars as I was going on. Outside of the grammar, I think this is good. It's not great, but I do like the focusing on like 362 side of that one episode. Like I said, not really a big fan of the episode. I think it was all right. I think the story is all right. Really, just come back and fix the grammar. That's really it. 4 out of 5. Maybe, yeah, 4 out of 5. I don't. Maybe if they like expanded on more, like showing like maybe in like a second chapter, like after the tag incident, where they're like where after Rachel ate like the broccoli and at beat touch fall like got father the tagger and all that, they had like a talk and all that. I think that would be a good decent follow up, but I don't really have anything else to say about the story. So this has been Dark Symphony 777 and cut.